entering the Geonosian system.
Hey, howdy, hey! Welcome back to the PRAXCAST. This is episode 5. We're here. This,
Energetic.
I mean, for those that were in the watch party yesterday, I think we know why we're here.
Episode 5 of Ahsoka.
Listen,
Ahsoka, yes, we're
if
here
we could
for.
get 7 seasons of Hayden Christensen as Anakin Skywalker during the Clone Wars, that would be great.
I'm there for it.
That was
Make it happen.
fantastic in every way, shape, and form, and I love it.
I love it.
Man,
Fucking Anakin,
absolutely.
his weird-ass little collar armor and his fucking pauldrons.
Yeah.
Disney?
Me and Astro, we were saying this is like one of the best. It's probably in my mind, it's the best live action Star Wars episode.
Live action Star Wars.
Yeah.
It's been so, like, I haven't been happy to watch a Star Wars episode like this in a very long time, or just anything. Like, I think the only thing that really matched it was obviously
Season
seeing
2.
Luke and the Mandalorian,
Yeah.
right? Season 7 of Clone Wars even being announced, that got me like, oh,
True.
we're doing
That was
this.
a good moment.
It's coming back.
Yeah.
And like, I hate the fact that all of these experiences were sort of like spaced out in a way. The reason I want, like, not to start off on a negative note, I wish we got here in a consistent way, but we're here and we're seeing Clone Wars Anakin in his full live action glory, dude, seeing that flashback was so. Can we? Okay, let me backtrack. Seeing
Right.
him in general, like in the World Between Worlds, when he first sees her, and she's like, "You look the same." He's like, "He got older."
You look older.
Old.
I love that one.
It happens.
Oh my god.
It's really funny because Hayden Christensen in real life looks like he hasn't aged at all. Meanwhile, Ahsoka in the show, he's just like, "You're old as shit. What happened to you?"
She's 37.
Yeah.
I know.
She's
It's weird
super old.
because she's supposed to be 40 or something like that. Not even 40.
Yeah,
like
she's 40.
mid-30s.
Yeah. Yep.
Wait a minute. Is she
Meanwhile-
in her mid-40s? Because if she's in her mid-40s, then she's
All right.
older than
Ahsoka
Darth
by
Vader
now
ever
has to
was.
be in her mid to late 40s.
She was 16, 19 BBY. 16 plus 19, that's 35.
Yeah.
And then add 9 years on top of that. So that's 44.
46, 44.
46, 44, 45, 46, somewhere in her mid 40s.
Yeah, it's crazy. Hamster, what were you saying?
Well, yesterday, about the episode, when Ahsoka was being pulled deeper into the water of the ocean, it really made me want to jump into the screen and into the ocean to save her. I felt this strong impulse to save her and protect her because I care so much about her.
I think the New Republic got that covered, though.
Yeah,
You got
whenever
the
she was
radical-
drowning in the ocean.
Hera on
Yeah.
the
But
evac.
anyway, like, focusing strictly on like the beginning of the episode
Mhm.
with all the Anakin shit, that was
Top
I'm gonna
notch.
say it is top tier Star Wars content that we've gotten out of Disney, and I have to thank Dave Filoni for every fucking second of it. Because without that weird ass fucking cowboy hat wearing motherfucker, we wouldn't have gotten any of that.
Well, and we're seeing more we were talking about this before the podcast. Like Dave Filoni, I've come to appreciate after that episode how much he is about mysticism and about, he's about these like big pictures, and we really like. I said this before going into that episode. I was like, I feel like this is going to be similar to the Deathly Hallows whenever Harry Potter dies, but he has the resurrection stone. And Dumbledore basically gives him a choice. He's like, you can pass on to the next life, or you can go back.
Mhm.
And you know, that's essentially what happened. But the Anakin, just like Hayden did an amazing job just flowing between both of these different characters, and it's almost like, you know, once it's all said and done, it's like, man, I feel like I just watched a fan film, but it was like a really good you know, it's like it almost doesn't feel real, not in a bad way, but it's like when these things actually happen, you're like, man, like us fans really don't, like, we imagine up a lot of things, but that's not far off from like some of the fan films I've seen. And now I'm just thinking, like, we've got this writer's strike, and it's just like in the hands of the fans now, like, you know.
Well, I really think that Dave understands his time.
Yeah, but overall, like, it's whatever you said about Hayden Christensen, he's not just playing like 2 separate characters, he's actually playing 3 fucking characters. He's playing ordinary Revenge of the Sith Anakin that Ahsoka remembers, Clone Wars Anakin, and he's also playing Nightfall Anakin, which, you know, Order 66 Anakin, and he's
Lord Vader.
He is so fucking aggressive whenever it comes to his stance and his like vibe and his lightsaber combat. He's so aggressive when he's fighting Ahsoka as
No, because when you came in yesterday, and you were talking about, I was not expecting him to pull out the red blade. We weren't either.
I wasn't.
And we were like,
yeah.
oh.
Nobody,
I don't think
nobody was expecting him to just bust out a red blade. It's just like, oh, so you just made all my fucking fantasy bullshit come true in like 10 seconds flat. Okay, that's great.
It's weird because it's like Star Wars has all this depth to it, but at the same time, there's not, you know, it's like they kind of play coy with us, you know. I thought back to how George was, whenever Samuel Jackson was asking for the purple blade, and, you know, George was like, Jedi get green and blue, Sith get red. And I'm like, oh, they broke the rules. Oh, God, they broke the rules. I was like, finally. Because we've seen Anakin with the red lightsaber in the Revenge of the Sith game, in the alternate ending. And, you know, I was hoping for that, but it's like we got like that nod to that version, or like a lot of versions of Anakin with that. And it's like, oh, finally, we get to see...
Like, this is literally just the Anakin at the end of the Revenge of the Sith game where he stabs Obi-Wan and kills Palpatine in front of all those clone troopers. Like,
no,
this is
galaxy
the epitome
belongs
of what
to me.
Darth Vader... Yeah, no, the galaxy belongs to me! That is the epitome of what Darth Vader could have been. Like, at his maximum
that is
power.
The Vader that Palpatine wanted.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Vader that Palpatine wanted, but he was, like, cut short of getting because of, you know, Obi-Wan cutting off all of his...
Because of high ground.
Because high ground,
yes. Because George and Nick Gillard, they mentioned that by the end of the film, he's ahead of everybody, or at least on equal footing with both Palpatine and Yoda. If he didn't let his
power
anger
levels,
get in
right?
the way,
Yeah.
huh? Because
power levels,
they
we
had
could
power
talk about
levels
those.
for him. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He was like a level
and
9.
Nick Gillard said, like Nick Gillard said, like at the beginning of the movie, Obi's at like an 8. Anakin's like at a 9, or
basically like
Anakin's like at an 8.5. Yeah, and then after the fight with Dooku, he's unhinged pretty much. Like if he goes off, nobody's stopping him.
Yeah, to put it into perspective,
which is how he was able to kill everybody in the temple.
Anakin during the Clone Wars was like kind of the calm and collective Anakin.
He was the in-between.
He's the in-between. He's the in-between between dark side and light, but whenever he hits dark side, Anakin.
Yeah, to me it's
Vader,
like...
no one can fucking stop him.
I was so...
No one in the Jedi Order could stop him. When he was sacking the Jedi Temple, none of them came close to beating him.
Except his best friend, yeah.
Well,
except for Obi-Wan.
Azure, you know how
Yeah.
I've been saying, like, when 08 Clone Wars first came out, I was really disconnected because it was so different. But then once the really good arc set in, I was like, oh, okay, this actually matters. So it's like, you have to, it's from a certain point of view. You have to look at it from, Anakin is just like, this is a period of time, the Clone Wars, where he's focused on another thing, like I said, that wouldn't have, him portraying just Hayden Anakin would not have worked, because Hayden Anakin was more, abrasive and more tenacious and less of a teacher, like Clone Wars Anakin was just like, you have to understand this because that's just the only way to survive. And that was so cool to just see, like, we see the, like, to anybody who's confused about the personality difference, it's just that, like, he's eased into that role so well, where it was Matt Lanter and it was just like, forget my ambitions, forget this, forget that. Anakin really became a teacher during that time and was just like, I know it sucks, but this is the situation we're presented with. And that's how exactly, like, the Clone Wars had been long over in this episode that we saw, but that was the same mentality that he went back to. He drew upon that Matt Lanter personality, where he was like, you just have to press forward, Ahsoka, like, you're going to suffer loss.
Yeah, and I love the line that he gives her, like, what about my training? And he's like, that's just the training.
Right.
The experience is the training you're getting. And that's kind of how Anakin learned, because he came to the Jedi Order in a relatively peaceful time, and he adjusted to the Clone Wars very quickly, extremely quickly, because he's he's pretty much had to fight for everything his entire life. He's born a slave.
Anakin literally being born a slave, being forced to literally fight for everything he earned, being beaten by Watto like every fucking day until he was black and blue, and then finally getting the opportunity to be free by winning that pod racing competition, even though he didn't even know he was going to be free. Like, he came into the Jedi Order as a completely different individual compared to all the other Padawans and younglings that had been there for like a decade at this point. Mm-hmm. So it makes sense that he would adjust more to fighting and more to leading and fighting alongside the clone troopers, like the most, if not the greatest elite force in the entire galaxy during that time, the 501st.
Yes, sir. White and blue boys.
The boys in blue. The most elite Clone Wars division in the galaxy that were so amazing that they stayed all the way up until the Empire. As Vader's own personal clone trooper regiment.
Vader's fist.
Yeah. But then...
Speaking of clone troopers... Well, actually, finish your point.
No,
finish your point.
Fuck my point.
Okay.
Speaking of clone troopers, live action Rex.
Live action Rex, but live action clone troopers.
We got live action
phase 1 clones.
That was beautiful. Also live action phase 2 clones, because then we get the Age of Mandalore.
Of course, yeah.
I could not believe, bro, when she fell through, and you see that first clone run out, and you're like, no, we're not doing this now.
And then you see the second clone. And then you see the wave of clones that are running through. And then you hear fucking Hayden Christensen yell, "Fire!" And then he just ignites a lightsaber, blocking blaster bolts.
I'm not gonna lie, I think this might be the old soul in me, but like, this happened to me with the Andor thing too. When you see those original clones that are all white and black, I thought it was stormtroopers, and I was like, what time period is this? And then I could hear your guys' reaction, so I was like, oh no, it's clones.
This is actually yeah.
And then the
It's
forward.
crazy because the second clone had the
It's
501st
just-
markings.
Yeah.
Yeah, a
There's
couple of
this
them have
fucking
just the plain
happening.
white armor.
Right, yeah. And like, because a lot of people got this, or they were kind of like confused at first because like, what battle was it? And she said like, this is one of our first battles. He's like,
Right.
yeah, no kidding. It's the battle because me and Corvus had just watched the Clone Wars 2008 movie before the episode had come out.
Yeah.
It's the Battle of Teth, like where they're going to that monastery to save Jabba's son.
Yeah, they have to climb
That's
up that
what-
giant ass monastery,
Yeah.
and almost all the clones end up getting killed off.
Well, maybe
That first
maybe like the
initial
first
scene-
bit of it, but the second
Yeah,
part
the
is
first
definitely
initial
Ryloth.
scene is Teth. Then they switch over to Ryloth because you see Cham Syndulla's, like his,
Yeah, you just see some Twilight
insurgent.
fighters.
yeah, and like that. The beauty of that scene to me is like how she's still thinking about like all those men that because Anakin, Obi-Wan, and Ahsoka, and Plo Koon, and sometimes Yoda were pretty much the only Jedi that really empathized with the clones.
I like
And
how,
treated
I like how,
them-
like, I like how you were like, sometimes Yoda, whenever he gives a shit.
Well, because I remember in
First
Legends
episode of
like a
Clone
lot
Wars.
that.
No,
I remember
like-
towards the middle of the Clone War in Legends, like in one of the novels, I think it might be the Yoda Dark Rendezvous novel.
Yeah.
Yoda realizes that, like, you know, the issuing of the clone army was just like, he realizes how sus it was. He's just like, this
Yeah.
happened under my nose. How did this happen? You know,
It's like,
he's
wait a
starting
minute,
to
why?
think about like,
Why? It's like, why did we not question the fact that there was a random ass army of clone troopers that just popped out of buttfuck nowhere, and we didn't find out until exactly the
Yeah.
day before the droid army was going to attack us?
and then towards the end of the war, like he starts not to trust the clones as much as he did early on,
Yeah.
and
But like, it was the first
it really-
episode of the Clone Wars where Yoda makes that whole speech to those three
Yeah.
clone troopers, and
Yeah,
he's like,
Fire,
"Oh, you're
Jack,
all
and Reese.
individuals. Yeah, you're
Yeah.
all individual clone troopers. You're all like, you have your own personalities and shit." And that's like the beginning of how these clone troopers start developing their own names and start becoming more than just numbers.
right, because they were the only real core of Jedi that really cared about their troopers and treated them like human beings. And
Yeah.
seeing Ahsoka sort of mourn over the injured troopers, or maybe they were dead, I don't know. And then the trooper like clutches her hand too. That was a beautiful moment. That was beautiful. And then
Definitely.
you see
But-
Anakin like turn around and see her like despondent, and he's trying to tell her like, this is war. This is going to
Mhm.
happen.
And it's
And
also
he
cool
starts
when
to
you
try to lighten
realize
the mood.
it's
Mhm.
also cool when you realize that like we're watching Clone Wars era Ahsoka, but in my mind, and I'm pretty sure that this is what's the case, is that it's Rosario Dawson Ahsoka, like it's her mind, like she knows
Her
this
mindset.
whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's her mindset.
mind
So-
in the body of.
so- yeah, so this is still weighing on her all these decades later. All these clones
Absolutely.
that died for
Which
her.
is kind of wild because, like, even after, like, it's probably been about 30 years since the Clone Wars ended by then. Like, even
Yeah.
30 years later, it's still, like, fresh in her memory, like, how many clones ended up dying under her command, how many clones died as a result of the Clone Wars, and how many people suffered and how many people died because of the Jedi claiming to be keepers of the peace and then turning into military generals and started leading campaigns on entire armies, and how many Jedi died because of that as well.
Well, yeah, because she's like
Yeah.
been really like by herself all these years. Like from what we know, she's been doing. She pops up in Rebels, and she pops up in Mando, but she's been alone.
Yeah.
She's had one or two friends. She's had Sabine, she's had Hu Yang, and she's had Chopper and Hera. But
And maybe even
Ahsoka has
kind of
been
as
sort of Luke
alone,
Skywalker.
and so her silence and her like ominousness, it made sense. I didn't know. I figured we were gonna see Anakin in this show, but I figured her ominence was just because you know how Luke goes from being that kind of like more Anakin like
Whiny.
teenager
Yeah.
to being like, you know, he goes from that to, you know, being how he was when he shows up in Return of the Jedi, and he's more collected and he's more calm. That's what I took it as.
And teetering on the darkness too, because
Yeah.
Yeah.
he
Yeah.
straight up force
Wearing
choked
all
those
that
Gamorrean
fucking-
guards.
Yeah, wearing all that fucking black leather jumpsuit.
Do you think he
Which
force choked them? I never thought he force choked
Oh
them.
no, he definitely force choked the shit
Because
out
the
of
sound
those
doesn't
guards.
come up and he doesn't clench his hand at all.
Well, considering
He
the
just
fact that
waves
they're
them.
all, considering the fact that they're both like clenching at their necks and they're literally choking, I would assume
Yeah.
that it was a force choke in some degree. Maybe just Shatterpoint. I have no idea.
Hamster, what were your thoughts on seeing Anakin in the Clone Wars flashback?
I got emotional.
Mm,
It was very emotional.
absolutely. I found myself like actually cry. Like it wasn't an audible cry, but like tears were coming out and they were welling up. And like, because I did not expect. Because I wanted the armor so bad on screen, and I was like, how is it going to look? I hope it doesn't look goofy. I see this man run out the smoke, bro. He's got
Anakin
the
has
cut
not looked
hair. He's
better.
got the yes, dude. It fit him well.
Yeah.
It's
It is
weird
so
because he
understand.
like I feel like we can't ever with Disney, we can't ever be totally satisfied because he looked great. Like I was like, dude, he's got the Anakin tan. You know, he doesn't look all pale like he did in Kenobi, but then the sets were kind of lacking, but we know that that's kind of being saved for later.
Yeah.
That's our
And
assumption.
it's kind of like a dreamscape kind of thing. Like that's what it's trying
Yeah,
to
it was
tell
like
us,
all smoke
Well,
and
yeah.
dirt.
kind of moving through all of her memories, you know?
Yeah, it kind of works that way because, like, you can make it as, like, a dreamscape kind of thing where it's all smoky and clouded and obscured.
Yeah,
to
because
where it's
yeah.
only focusing on that specific thing and not spend millions of dollars on backgrounds of, like, clones just
Right.
shooting at random
I never
droids.
thought about it that way, but that's a good way to put it because like in your dreams, you're not thinking about what the wall 50 feet away looks like in detail, you know.
You're only,
Yeah.
you're only
And I-
focusing on the centered point of view.
And I realize this also is that a lot of people that are watching, you know, live action Star Wars probably haven't seen a lot of the cartoons. And so when you go into this flashback and you see the clones coming out and stuff, it's actually a good idea to have it be a foggy set because the first time that you see live action clones in this way is on Geonosis. And what's that? That's
Mhm.
really foggy. And so people who haven't
Yeah.
seen Clone Wars and know the clones really well, that's going to be a good way of like, oh, okay, this is that era. I see what's going on.
Yeah, them emerging from the cloud, the smoke, was how I remember first seeing clones as a kid. You know, just
Dude,
like the
that is
attack
one of
of the
my-
clones, like they just
That's
burst out
one
of
of my
nowhere.
favorite shots in all of Star Wars is when the clones are just like they've got their guns on their hips and they're just hip firing and you can see all like
Whenever
the,
they're just
the
blasting
lasers.
Geonosis
just- oh my
sandstorm.
god,
down the
I
fucking
love
desert
that shot
sands.
so much. That's probably my
You mean
favorite shot in
the
all of Attack of the
Geonosis
Clones.
Sandstorm?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the droids are
whenever
coming
that
at them and they're going
giant-ass-
forward. Oh my gosh, I
Yeah,
love that.
like
so-
whenever that
so much.
giant ass spherical fucking
Yeah.
ship just crashes
The Hail
down
The
the
into
Fire
Trade
droid,
Federation
yeah.
ship.
fucking
Oh,
desert
those,
sandstorm,
yeah,
and all
too,
these
the droid drop
motherfucking
ships.
clone troopers are just going like that, like it's a fucking
Yeah.
80s movie.
Dude, yes.
And these motherfuckers
But, yeah.
are just blasted. They don't give a shit about ammunition.
Absolutely, dude.
Ahsoka
And then, oh, go ahead, Hamster.
Ahsoka has found a profound impact on me. Not just a fighter to me, she's like a sister to me who I look up to. And I'm pretty sure
Absolutely.
we all have our favorite characters who inspire us as well because we also feel the same way.
Anakin's
Well,
my
yeah,
favorite
like
character.
a
because
lot
I
of
understand.
the
Anakin
thing
would
about
win,
Star
too.
Wars, the thing about Star Wars in general is like everybody who's watched Star Wars has a deep connection to like at least one or two characters. Like,
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure a vast majority of us here have a deep connection with like Obi-Wan Kenobi, and probably like Anakin
Or Luke.
and even potentially Luke Skywalker for those of us who have watched the OT before.
See, I'm glad that
or prequels.
I'm glad that Hamster mentioned that, because I'm never. I feel like I have a unique take, like, because most people who favor Anakin are, you know, it's usually because of like some obvious things, but like me, like Anakin is one of my favorites because and Luke, I guess, because I relate so much to the, you know, you lose the whole losing your teacher, you know, because it's like, it would be too easy if you had a all-wise teacher until the end, you know? And I have personal experiences, you know, it's like grandparents, my grandma, my grandpa, I saw them as my Obi-Wan and Yoda. And there's answers that I wish that I could get from them, but I can't. And I relate to Luke and Anakin so much in that way, because, you know, we all have kind of like that, you know, there's no character development if you just have a master that teaches you all the answers. You have to figure out your own way of understanding, and like seeing Ahsoka finally come to that understanding with Anakin really comes full circle, you know, because she lost her master before she was, you know, she wasn't even a part of the order before she was knighted. And, you know, Anakin was just trying to give her a reason to keep fighting. And I really feel that on a personal level.
So,
Dude,
speaking of that, do we, because I don't think that Ahsoka died per se, but Anakin was trying to convince her to not give up on like living, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know if she died. Do you guys think that she died when she got
I don't think
knocked
she
off?
was dead
I-
per se.
I don't
I
so
think
either.
She
that
was very
the
close to it.
I think she was close,
Yeah.
Yeah, I
think
think she was
the
teetering
Ahsoka
on
the
the
Great-
border.
And it was kind of like this culmination of all of these things that go through her head, like all of these burdens that she's carrying, both from the Clone Wars and what's happening right now. Like Sabine and Ezra are gone, Thrawn is on the way. Like,
Yeah.
she's just, and all of this weight is on her shoulders. And then Anakin comes in and is like, hey, you
And
got to
she
be the one to
almost-
save everybody.
And she almost walked away from her mission again.
Mm-hmm.
She
went dark
almost
side
made
for a
the
second.
same mistake
What-
twice.
Which
She went
is
That's why
very
Anakin was there
ironic.
to save her from
It-
doing that.
Yeah, it's very poetic that
Mhm.
she returned back to her mission by facing and getting a final lesson from the person that she walked away from.
That she felt
Mhm.
responsible for the way he
Yeah.
turned out.
Yes.
But it's very,
Um,
very poetic how that works out. But also, I was gonna say
Mhm.
about Corvus, the whole thing that you were saying about how, oh yeah, I relate to Luke on a personal level. It's like, yeah, I really relate to Luke, especially whenever my aunt and uncle die in a fucking Imperial raid, and I have to hang out with an old hermit and go into outer space.
Hey, Auntie and Uncle are
Hey, they're dead.
no
I'm gonna hang out
barbecue.
with this old hermit for a little while who used to know my dad. Definitely,
Hey,
definitely not on drugs.
Yo,
Not on
Amberu,
spice.
Why does the house smell like barbecue?
I'll see you
no.
at 9 p.m. tonight. Just a regular day going out for some blue milk, you know, just a regular day.
A blue milk run.
Not for some blue milk, just a regular old day. Oh hey, aunt and uncle are dead. Oh no.
Oh, hello,
But yeah.
burning corpses. How do you do?
By the way, how perfect are those Vader flashes that you
Oh,
see
those
in this
Vader
video?
flashes are absolutely
The first
astounding.
one?
The first
the
one,
first
was so
one when he's
shocking.
walking into
Oh,
battle
the first
and he's
one.
got the lightsaber to his eye.
Yeah. Man.
Oh yeah.
No, all of them are absolutely perfect
Oh,
because
yes.
the first one, whenever he's walking into the fog and you see that glimpse of Vader, and then whenever he's walking towards Ahsoka with the red lightsaber and he starts
Mhm.
flashing in and out between Anakin and Vader, is so amazing.
When he's walking
the way
away
he-
from her, like in the smoke, it's just that, like, you know,
Yeah.
you know that he's trying to teach her a lesson because she's clearly missing something. I've never, as a Star Wars fan, felt like a conflicted Padawan as I did in that moment, because she, you know, like, she knows what he did was evil and everything, and he's giving her this ultimatum, like, you fight or you die. And that look she gave him when he was walking away was just like, oh, like, so this is how it's gonna be. And then he flashes into Vader. It's just that, like, that's where the Legends Luke Skywalker Jedi Academy, like, that's where, like, the true Jedi Order, like, begins. It's just that, like, I know you're not wrong, but there's also questions.
This motion that Hayden Christensen did whenever he just like locks up his shoulders while he's walking towards Ahsoka. I'm just thinking, Jesus
Was going to
fucking Christ,
mention
man.
that the shoulder shrug, man.
Just
yeah,
the shoulder shrug, and then he's just like,
very
Jesus fucking
revenge.
Christ, man, what are you doing to your shoulders? You're gonna dislocate them.
Nene before you get a whooping. You better hit the nene before you get a whooping.
No, he walked through like, hey, you thought I was playing? You thought I was playing? And then he just gets serious on her, and she's trying her best to keep him at bay. But
That
like,
distorting voice where he gets that mechanical like audio, and it's like, Jesus Christ, man.
you lack conviction.
You lack
I love that
conviction.
part.
Yeah, it's great.
No, but, like, a little backtracking from that, when they switch to the Siege of Mandalore, and you see the Mandalorians, dude, you see the clones in there, 332nd
Oh,
battalion,
that part of me screaming.
Ahsoka helmets, and you see Rex in his phase 1.5 armor. Oh, it's beautiful. And then Tamora voices. I
Come on,
really
let's
think
go.
I think he was criminally underused in this episode, but you know what?
I
I'm gonna let
agree.
it slide.
I feel like we should have
I'm
saw
gonna
his
let it
face,
slide right
but
now.
it would have maybe it wouldn't have distracted. I think we should have just saw his face.
Yeah,
That would've been
absolutely.
cool.
Unless they're saving him for later, and then you
Maybe. I don't know why.
know, yeah.
We need them now.
And Anakin's like, I don't remember this battle. She's like, this is right after we parted, and he's like, oh. And then she's like, you know, he's trying to tell her, like, and the line he delivers is so beautiful. It's such
Whenever-
a beautiful line.
Whenever he's like,
Within
oh, you're
you-
still worried about, oh, you're talking about something different.
Well, right before that, he's like, within you is everything I am. And I'm like, oh, that hurts. Because, like, he never, like, he's finishing her training now, but, like, you know, all this summer we were watching Clone Wars and we were seeing their relationship build and the lessons that he taught her, and she taught him some things too about living. And the way, like, they're two peas in a pod, although one of them went left, the other went right. And seeing him finally, like, be the master that he was supposed to be, or that he wanted to be for her, is, you know, very impactful. And having Hayden say it is even more impactful for me, because we've been waiting for these two characters to be on a live action screen for God knows how long. And, you know, here we are in 2023. If you told somebody this 15 years ago, they would have laughed in your face probably.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, like if you would have gone back to 2008 and told somebody, oh yeah, you know that fucking Star Wars, like, Clone Wars show on Cartoon Network? Yeah, that's gonna be in live action someday, and Hayden Christensen is gonna play Anakin. They would have been like,
Shut
you're
the fuck
fucking
up.
crazy, bro.
Speaking of
Right.
Anakin and Ahsoka, do we think so? What's your guys'? I know we talked about this after the watch party, but what's your guys' like final verdict on? Does she know that he was redeemed?
See, I was going to mention that earlier, and
Mhm.
I don't
So,
think
I
she
still don't
knows.
know.
I don't think she does.
I don't know, but I don't think she knows.
Because
And I don't know why
She
Anakin didn't
does.
tell her, but he's got a reason.
But, like,
And
I think
hope we're
that-
gonna see him.
I think that this is like the perfect time to bring this up, because we didn't see Balin at all in this episode, obviously, but this deserves mentioning. My theory was that, you know, Balin was like he revealed kind of his not his motives, but kind of like what drives him and what causes his way of thinking, you know. And he was pissed that Anakin was this icon in the Jedi Order and went on to bring about the destruction of them. So I know this is a lot to ask for, but my theory was that like Ahsoka has to find out first that Anakin was redeemed. It'd be nice if Luke was involved in that. That's a lot to ask for in the 3 remaining episodes. But I'm like, Ahsoka has to find out, and then maybe Balin finds out that, because he's so, we know his motives now. He, you know, he wants to just end that way of thinking, the Jedi Order, because of Anakin, and for him to find out that he was redeemed, I feel like that's what would bring about the sacrifice that we think he's going to make by the end of this show. Because if he realizes that his hero was redeemed, then his whole motive just collapses, and then he turns on, because he doesn't really care about Thrawn. He's just like, you know, for some war and for us power. Like, he's just kind of surviving right now. That's how I take him and shit. They're not
So
loyal.
what were your thoughts on it?
Yeah, go ahead, answer.
Wouldn't Ahsoka have to know that Anakin's redeemed? Because
Why?
saying if he was a Force ghost, right? He can't be in the world between worlds, correct?
Well, he can.
Because a Sith can a Sith become a Force ghost?
No,
Well, he wasn't a
As
Sith
far
when he
as I
died.
know, they cannot.
but he wasn't a Sith by the time he
but-
died.
Exactly, but this
Yeah.
is my point. So he couldn't be there if he was never redeemed. So would Ahsoka not have to know just by that?
But
Like,
but
that's an interesting question,
him appearing in the world
because-
between worlds doesn't directly make him a Force ghost. Like, she
Also,
doesn't
I don't-
have to believe that he's a Force ghost.
I don't think it's very common knowledge that Force ghosts are really a thing, considering that there
Oh
have
yeah,
only been,
Ahsoka
like,
probably doesn't
3
even know
people.
about them.
Mm-hmm.
There have only been 3 people in the entire existence of Star Wars that actually know about Force ghosts and shit, and that's like Yoda, Obi-Wan, and Qui-Gon.
And Luke, yeah.
Well, 4 now.
And Luke. Yeah. Like, there's only like 5 people in the entire galaxy that know about Force ghosts and how they work, and 4 of them are dead.
Yep.
4 of them are already Force ghosts.
Yeah.
So,
You know what? Fair point.
I don't think that it would be really common knowledge that Anakin would have been redeemed.
Or that's an
At this
ability that you get to
time?
achieve.
Yeah. Because, like, again, there's only one person alive that knows about Force ghosts. That's Luke. But unless Luke told Ahsoka about how Vader just yeeted Palpatine into a fucking reactor shaft, I don't know who's gonna tell her.
Do you think that conversation has happened yet between those two?
Luke and Ahsoka?
I don't
Yes.
know.
Definitely not.
They won't tell us. They don't tell us
Look,
anything. I hate it.
Here's
If
my
it
thing.
happened off screen, we're gonna see it
If it-
soon.
If it did happen, then Ahsoka wouldn't be questioning, like, Anakin at all. Like, she would have known that he would
It
have
might
been
be like a
redeemed.
Leia
He would've-
situation, though. Like
Okay,
how
yeah,
Leia still
but,
didn't
like,
trust him.
Yeah, but, like, Leia didn't know Anakin
That's true.
or
She
Vader.
didn't know him at all. Yeah.
You know how
Yeah.
She only knew
Disney,
Vader.
you know how Disney does this, like, kind of draw back the arrow thing, where it's like, you know, where the next, whatever the next show or movie is, you know, this is where it'll be heading, but then they throw something else in there that goes back. I'm just gonna say, like, at this point, I don't think there's any going back, because we've already kind of done the whole, you know, King's Cross thing, like I mentioned earlier with Harry Potter, about the whole, like, you can go back if you choose, or you know, you can pass on to the next world. That's kind of how I took that. So I don't think there's any going back on, you know, like a conversation between Luke and Ahsoka. But I could honestly see, you know, them just randomly throwing in like a Luke's like, I have some training for you, and maybe that's where it gets revealed.
He just walks up on her like Nick Fury in the Iron Man 1. He's like,
I'm here to tell you about the
Jedi
Anakin Skywalker Redemption Initiative.
My dad, I was getting struck by force lightning by this old man, and he was like,
We're assembling a team to fight this blue guy with red eyes. You in?
yeah, no, I mean,
Who's
that's right.
we?
What?
During
Oh
the
my
show,
god.
I found myself close to the screen as if my presence could somehow make a difference.
I felt really immersed once the like you mentioned the like Ahsoka like sinking into the water, which by the way is a direct reference to some Dave Filoni art that he made when Rebels was coming out, of her like going into the Malachor temple and she was like wading in the water into the world between worlds. And like there's this transition in the episode like where it gets to the high point where, you know, she wakes up in the Jedi cruiser, and obviously her blanket is the white, you know, the white like the poncho sort of thing. And we're, like, I just remember like all last night I was like, it's Ahsoka the White, it's Ahsoka the White. Like she walks out. First of all, see, Jason was like the other highlight of this episode to me.
He was, dude. I was so impressed.
Because we will watch your career with great interest.
as much as I don't like silly green hair, it's kind of growing on me a little bit, but I'm still like, well, why does that exist? But I love his character now. Like he's actually like,
they really haven't made him like an annoying, you know, it's sad, right? Because like they made Leia such a tedious, annoying character in, you know, and it's excusable for a kid, but
and
the difference, like, just look at the I just implore people, look at the difference between Jason Syndulla and Leia. Like, he didn't do that, you're gonna come get me, and then, but besides that, it's like, he doesn't have to, like, you know, this is a kid actor, like, we're talking about the actor, like, this is a child, so we're not expecting him to do some great, like, intellectual shit yet, but like,
we don't want him to
expecting him
character
to
act.
pull out some fucking Shakespearean performance,
but like he
Christopher
is just on the right track for me. Like I you know, I'm more excited, you know, if we're gonna see some kind of, you know, at post Return, Rise of Skywalker, you know, Jedi Order, I'm excited for him to be in it because he has Uncle Ezra, you know, is gonna teach him.
Cool.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, dude.
Really
and like
looking
her
forward
whole
to this kid's career as like a potential Jedi.
You have a training room in your cruiser? Yes. Can you teach me? No.
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 I love her game.
You know how to build a lightsaber? Yes. Can I build one? No.
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 He's like, oh fuck no, you're not making a lightsaber, not on my
You're not
watch.
fun. What the hell? I'm gonna go back with Chopper. He's a way better droid.
Oh my god, Chopper with the lightsaber
It's more
is
fun than you are. It's like, I don't fucking care.
No.
Like,
And
fuck
then-
you, kid. You're not my dad.
Chopper wouldn't just have one lightsaber. He would totally General Grievous it and just be wielding
Grievous the whole thing.
at least
Most
2
definitely.
or 6.
Just imagine it's like, hello there. Wah, 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 wah.
Somebody needs to make that edit right now.
Wah, wah,
I
wah,
will.
wah, wah.
That's so good. And then it's so good because Grievous jumps in that wheelie ship.
Oh my
He just rolls on his
That'll
side
blow
like a
too.
can opener
Oh
with
my gosh.
lightsabers.
I can guarantee that if Chopper actually had 4 lightsabers, he'd be a fucking menace.
That's what I'm saying. That's a terrifying notion to even mention. It's just
Don't even bother with
No.
clones. Just get a bunch of astromechs.
Bother with all the war crimes that he'd actively be committing with 4 lightsabers.
Chopper was the Sith Lord we've been looking for.
Sith droid.
I'm like having trouble remembering it now, but there was a couple of times in the episode where I was like, Chopper, don't do it. Like I thought he was gonna do something like nefarious or
murder somebody. Yeah.
like I'm like
That's
he's
one
about
thing
to,
I'm mad about.
one of your dirty tricks.
That's
I
one
think
thing I'm
it's
mad
a-
about is that he's not.
I think it's a good sign that we're expecting fucking Chopper to do some devious shit. Like, we're expecting him to shank somebody in the middle of an episode while everybody's chilling out on a cliff. Wow, 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 wow.
Sounds like Charlie Brown's parents, like wah 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 wah.
Yeah, I think that's.
Yeah.
But it's
And then
like
he just
so.
throws Jason off the cliff.
Yeah, it's like so well done that you can kind of understand what he's saying while also keeping like a light veil of robot talk.
Mhm.
Oh,
I
man.
guess.
What-
Do you guys have any like complaints about the episode, like minor stuff that you were like, if this was done a little bit better, that would have been cool.
No.
I
From the topics we've talked about so far, I think my only gripe was that even though it was a flashback, I feel like there was a sense of scale missing from the Clone Wars battles, you know? Like I know it was just like a
Like maybe
it was
more
like a
clones, or
stagecraft.
maybe seeing droids or something.
Well, just seeing like the skyline of like the planets
Yeah.
they were on, just to make sure like we know where we are, because
Oh, how cool!
it wasn't
how cool would
until
that been if you saw like a
Mhm.
Republic ship, like a big like cruiser? That would have been cool.
yeah,
Like a
Like,
Venator
if-
class Star Destroyer.
Yeah. That's what I mean. Yeah.
Venator, yeah. Yeah, I mean we saw the ATTEs, which beautiful,
Mhm.
and we saw like the gunships in the Mandalore part, and we saw some of the buildings of Sundari too, and I wish we got to see a bit more of it, like like I said, I wish I had a sense of scale, because when you look back to the Attack of the Clones Geonosis battle, that was a huge first fight of the war. It was insane. All these Jedi and clones everywhere and droids. All the blue and red, laser bolts flying past each other. It was crazy. And I wish there was a bit more of that in this episode. But other than that, like, I really didn't have any complaints.
Mhm.
Earlier I was like, man, I'm gonna be the one guy complaining about something about this episode, and I've had like an issue with the sabers for a long time, and I think I figured out with this episode what it was, because they're using the actual sabers that light up now. I forget what they're called, but the
RGB,
Neopix.
yeah, they're using the neopixels now, and I feel like, because we know there's, their budgeting scale is so weird. They keep showing us these sand planets that have no sets, and then they do these really great CGI moments where it's like, okay, that's what they're saving the budget for. But I just wish that they would go back to like at this point, I think the sabers looked better in the sequels than what they do now. Like, it really showed with Anakin doing that little sidestep to the left, sidestep to the right. Like, he did a little Clone Wars movement in there where, Rebels and Clone Wars, there was a lot of saber drag, and now there's like none. And like when Anakin first drew his blue saber, it almost didn't even it looks blue, but I don't want to be just the negative Nancy. But I'm like, just
No, I
put
saw
a
it too.
little bit
it was
of
like cyan.
Yeah, it was like not even really blue.
A New Hope. Star
You
Wars.
could see more.
On it.
You could see more of the plastic it was traveling through than the blade.
Yeah.
The LED
And
light.
it's just that, like, those fights like really is where I noticed like they need to add more saber drag. They're not like affecting the lightsabers at all anymore. They're just relying on the light from the blade, I think.
Physical.
Yeah, the physical blade.
Yeah, that's kind of weird because whenever you look at the lightsabers and you can tell how thick they are compared to like the OT and the prequel trilogy lightsabers that look so fluid, you just think to yourself, Disney, what the fuck are you doing? Like, you're literally a company that bought. You're a company that bought this fucking product for like $4 billion. I'm sure you have enough money to spend so you can make the lightsabers look a little bit better and not look like they're made out of plastic.
Do better, Disney.
Do better.
Do better.
Hashtag do better. Hashtag get a better budget. Hashtag
make
you.
the Clone Wars live action movie.
Hashtag make the Clone Wars great again.
My only complaint was that I wish that Ahsoka and Anakin went a little bit crazier with the lightsaber fight. It was very.
It started out pretty
at
strong.
the first. Yeah, it's like it goes so good, and then there's moments where it goes to like a saber lock, and then Anakin just pushes her off, and it does that like twice in the first sequence of the fight before they go to the flashback, and I was just like, I get that he's like way more powerful than her, and like maybe that's what they're trying to show, but I feel like they could have done it better.
Well,
Really,
and
it's really
you know,
odd how-
us.
But the Vader, the Nightfall Anakin, and like Anakin with the red saber versus Ahsoka, that was great. I like that.
I know
It's
that
like,
this is
whenever you're
probably.
watching the lightsaber fight. You want to go first, or should I go first?
Oh, you go.
Well, I was just saying, like, I just didn't like that they kept cut. Like, okay, as much as we were like hyping up Jason Sindula, I didn't like that they cut away to him hearing the fight. Like, I wish they showed the fight a bit more before they cut to him, you know? Because there was only like, what, 5 minutes of, or not even 5, maybe like 2.5 minutes of like them starting the sparring. And then it just cuts like, hey, I can hear him in the ocean. Like,
That's
what?
something the
Hear them
original
out in the
trilogy
ocean,
did
it's
a
like,
lot better.
Motherfucker, you're not hearing shit.
You just made me realize something. The original trilogy
So-
did that a lot better, is that the fights were a lot longer because there was a lot of talking in between fights,
Mhm.
like Luke talking to Vader and stuff, and like kind of like
Yeah.
hiding and like looking for people.
There was a lot of
So-
pauses.
That's something they could experiment with in the future to make it better.
Well, they had
Yeah.
that done with
You have to. You also have to factor in the whole thing about how these fights are so fucking fluid.
Hmm
Yeah.
With
They
Yeah.
had that
Hayden
done with
Christensen-
the Merrick fight. Last
Yeah, I was gonna
episode.
say that the
Christensen,
Balin
he's
fight
just
worked because they had another fight to like pass it off to instead of dialogue.
Sabine and Shin.
Yeah. And you can tell by Hayden Christensen's movements, he's like busting out that old ass Revenge of the Sith training.
He hasn't lost a step.
He
No,
really hasn't.
this
He's
this
great.
man is fucking fluid in his fighting stance as fucking Anakin. It's great.
The young Ahsoka actress was really good as well.
Oh, she's
with
Oh
her.
yeah, she's really
She's
good as
great.
Ahsoka.
Way
that's
exceeded
For those
my
of you-
expectations.
Yeah, I was about to
Now,
say
for those of
that's
you
the
that
same
didn't
girl
notice-
who played as young Gamora from
Gamora.
Infinity War,
Infinity War.
and she's
Yep.
also supposed to be playing as Tiny Tina in the new Borderlands movie.
Oh wow.
Really?
Yeah,
I feel
Wow.
like she
I
did
wonder how
something
that's
else.
going to
think somebody
transition
else
from being
mentioned.
Ahsoka to Tiny Tina. That's going to be a weird transition.
It's crazy that we were talking about lightsaber battles because Astro mentioned to me yesterday. He texted me. He was like, "Yo, Ahsoka just stabbed this Mandalorian and she died. We're making progress.
Yeah.
Good job, Disney. You actually managed to kill somebody. Yeah, you actually managed to kill somebody with
Oh yeah.
lightsaber stab.
That's what it was.
Good
She
job.
was the little kid. 65. I don't know if you guys know that movie with Adam Driver. She was a little
Really?
kid.
Oh yeah.
With the dinosaurs.
65 billion.
Yeah, with
Yeah.
dinosaurs. That's right. Yep.
It's crazy.
Fucking wild.
She did really good.
hmm
We'll watch your career with great interest.
You know,
For real.
I had something that's, you know, I figured, you know, we were gonna talk most of this episode about, you know, the whole Anakin thing, but I just think that, like, I wanted to give an honorable mention to the ending of that episode when they, you know, they're going to the Purgles. I loved seeing our classic Ahsoka back. You know, she's got her smiles, her smirks, and her personality back, and that really cleared up a lot of things. And the score, like, Kevin Kiner has really done it for me with this series. Like, you know, the Boba Fett theme was really cool. The Obi-Wan theme, I can't remember what it was like off the top of my head, but, you know, the scores have been good while versus the story. But I really love just, like, you know, the Balin theme in the first episode. That whenever they were about to jump to light speed, and, you know, Carson and the other X-Wing fighters give that look, it just really brought me back to the original trilogy when, you know, they're all like, the X-Wing fighters are all just excited, and, like, after the Death Star blows up, and I just really got this sense of, you know, they obviously know that didn't just randomly happen. They know that something big, like, Carson knows, you know, he doesn't know the full extent of, like, the Jedi knowledge like Ahsoka knows it, but he's been around a little bit, and just that sight of them smiling all at the Purgle was like that. It was that classic Star Wars.
That was
like,
kind of powerful.
I believe in the, you know, I don't understand the Force, but, like, I'm seeing the wonders of the Force right now, and just in awe of it. Like, that was a classic callback moment.
Also, just shout out to Carson for being, like, just the audience in everything that he's in. Because whenever Hera's just ordering everybody around, he's like, what the hell? And Hugh Yang's like, oh yeah, that kid? Yeah, his dad was a Jedi, so he has Force powers.
He's just like,
okay, sure, why not? Yeah.
And he was like, apparently the plan is to jump to light speed with the things. And they're like, do we have that correct? And he's like, I guess so.
So the plan is for you to pull a Finding Nemo and go into a giant whale's mouth. Yes.
Yes, miss, that's right.
Okay, that's great. Nice to know that
So should
Disney
we
is trying
change
to
the name
fucking
of
throw
this
in
show?
one of their favorite movies.
So since Ahsoka learned how to speak to the whales like Dory, should we change the show's name to Finding Ezra?
Finding Ezra.
True.
Let's do
That
it.
is so good.
Oh god!
Because the whale is
I just want one
that
shot of
carries
Ezra just being like,
Dad.
"Oh, need to find my friend."
I did get big Pinocchio, or no, was it Pinocchio that had the big whale?
Pinocchio, yeah.
Yes,
Yeah,
I got big
that had
Pinocchio
the whale that
vibes.
ate that shit.
With the big whale teeth that look like toothbrush bristles, I was like, dude, this is like Pinocchio back in the day.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Actually,
Real
I'm pretty
quick,
sure
can
that
we-
whale had giant human teeth for some fucking reason.
You envision
I'm not
them
gonna lie,
having
I am 90% certain that fucking whale had human teeth.
Oh my god, that's the whole time, please.
You can look it up
Ew,
if you
that's
want to. I will gladly admit if I am wrong, but I swear
He
to
just
God,
got a
he had human
grill.
teeth.
He just got a gold grill when he opens the mouth. He's
You mean
like,
the
hop on
Pinocchio?
in, Ahsoka.
Pinocchio whale?
Hop on in, baby. I'll take you for
Oh yeah,
a
the
ride.
Pinocchio whale was named Monstro. Oh god, he does have like...
He did.
Why does he have chompers?
Yo, he had some
Yeah.
chompers. That's what I'm saying. He had like molars all around, dude. They weren't canines or
Yo.
normal teeth. He had
Well, all
molars.
right,
This is him.
okay. I have a question. Who's editing this episode?
Me, I'm editing this episode.
All right, Angel, throw in the fucking picture of Monstro with like those massive ass human ass teeth.
Yeah. Yo, is this him in Kingdom Hearts, yo?
Now I've got to look it up.
That's when I first learned it. It's like Kingdom Hearts. You go into the mouth of Monstro while you're on the fucking gummy ship. He has human monsters, and then you get into his mouth. It's like, motherfucker, this whale has human teeth. This thing's an abomination.
Because like in the front of his mouth, he had those like molar. He had like just regular human molars all throughout his mouth. I remember.
Put those choppers away.
Gross. What the hell?
Bro's munching on fucking ships. He needs them.
You know those things in Arkham Asylum, the little chomping things that Joker has around? That's what this reminds me of.
Oh, the laughing teeth?
Yeah, the laughing teeth.
Oh, bro. Okay, wait. This all but confirms that Kingdom Hearts 4 is going to have freaking Star Wars content in it. Just turn Monstro into a Purgle. We're good.
Yep.
Just hop on his back. You'll jump to another. Worlds. You just hop on the Purgle's back and you'll jump to, you know...
Sora's been going through hyperspace the entire time.
Pocahontas or something, or Mulan.
You know what? Now that I think about it, fucking Monstro in Kingdom Hearts being a Purgle makes every sort of sense because he's just floating around in between worlds.
Yeah. Absolutely checks out.
God, that is so stupid.
Speaking of whales and Purgles, I think one of the best like unsung moments of this episode is when Hu Yang takes Ahsoka into the mouth of the whale, and he's like, "Well, did you get them to tell us where Sabine is?"
Oh, I died.
And she's like, "I have no idea."
Whenever I
died,
you know, I always get my drinks before the episode and everything, so I might have been feeling it a little bit of, you know.
It was such a Clone Wars
but
moment.
I was dying whenever she was like, "I have no idea," and he was like, "What?"
That was great. That's such a good
because
moment.
Hu Yang's like, motherfucker, I've been through too much shit for you to just be like, oh yeah, we just went into a giant whale's mouth and I have no idea where the fuck we're going.
Can I also just say, shout out to Dave Filoni, because I felt like, you know, even though we haven't been around the dynamic between Hu Yang and Sabine and Ahsoka that long, that part of the episode where he was like, they were supposed to stay together, and he was showing emotion. I was like, this is the C-3PO we should have got in Rise of Skywalker, instead of that dirty trick they pulled on us, where it was like, we thought he was gonna die. I'm like, okay, they should have had C-3PO just kind of reminiscing on, you know, we fought the Empire, we fought the Separatists, we fought the Sith, and here we are, you know, that would have been kind of like another thing. Yeah, like that Hu Yang thing, like I felt such an emotional connection to that, having not seen this dynamic that long. He was like, they were supposed to stay together. Like, oh my god.
Like,
it's crazy since Hu Yang's been around since the High Republic.
Yeah, this motherfucker... This motherfucker's been around since the High Republic. He's known like hundreds, if not thousands, of Jedi who have died.
Bro knows Yoda's great-great-great-grandfather.
Yeah, this motherfucker knows everybody who is everybody. And then for this guy to have like two new friends who immediately both just die or vanish, and he's just like, oh well, I guess I'm fucking alone in this world again. It's just sucks. Like Order 66. This fucking sucks.
Oh, another one of my complaints, now that I just remembered it. So you know when Ahsoka wakes up out of the World Between Worlds and she doesn't have her headpiece on, it's too makeup-y for me. It kind of pulled me out of the episode when you like see the hard separation between her orange face and her Leku. It kind of pulled me out a little bit.
A lot better.
Yeah.
I was just like, there's something different.
Really minor
like,
stuff.
She had less eyebrow. Like, to me, it was like, there was less brow. There was less action on the brow. And I was like, why is it? You know.
It was just her Pagoda hairline.
Features.
Let's take a moment, though, to appreciate, you know, we're about to have this in video games until the rest of eternity. We're about to have this new Ahsoka look everywhere in
Oh
the
my
next few
gosh.
days. And can we appreciate how Dave Filoni made the Star Wars equivalent of Gandalf the White and the Winter Soldier at the same time with that
The way
that
she
sexy ass
stepped-
gauntlet.
The way she stepped out of the Jedi cruiser to talk to the whales. That
And then it just flows. Oh my gosh.
that's probably the drippiest Star Wars costume I've ever seen since an
Bruh.
anime
Yeah.
fit.
It looks so good.
She has like
Like,
classic,
White outfit
like
and looking.
it almost reminded me of like the classic kind of like Revan used it, and the old Republic Mandalorians used that style of gauntlet that she has on. I have to like go back and draw a picture. Like we'll do a side by side kind of thing. But I was like, dude, that is so old Republic and ancient, and like everything about this show has an ancient theme, you know.
Yeah.
Connecting back to your roots.
Oh man. Absolutely.
So good.
Roots of the old
Because
Jedi.
like, yeah.
Now going into next episode, do you guys think that it's going to be a villain based one? Because we've just reached the climax, so we have to see what the antagonists are up to.
I think
Because
something
gotta-
bad
We've
is
only
going
really
to happen.
had.
I've got a bad
I think
feeling.
Thrawn is going to show up next episode. I think it
so
will be
too.
the reveal.
So you know how my
hope so.
prediction was like, okay, they're not going to throw us right into Anakin and Ahsoka with the 5th episode. So they might give us Thrawn first. Well, we didn't see Thrawn at all. So it's like, okay, they focused on Anakin. That's good. Or they focused on what they focused on. But then, they have to bring Thrawn in. I think that, I don't know. I feel like there's a tragedy yet to happen. Like there's either something bad either going to happen with Sabine or Balin. That's my guess. We're speculating this sacrifice to happen. Balin was so back and forwards during that fight. Like he was so pissed whenever Ahsoka like was hurting Shin, but then when Shin got up to retaliate to Ahsoka, he just immediately changed up. And then moments before, he was like this most aggressive dude that we've ever seen him as. So
Yeah.
I don't know. There's something that they're putting on pause with Balin. We don't know what it is, but they're
I was telling you
stewing that.
earlier. I was telling you earlier that I think he's going to have his own version of Ahsoka's coming to Jesus moment. Like I think he's going to see that Anakin turned out okay, and he's going to regret everything he said about him to her.
I think
And he's
maybe
going to see
his
that the Jedi are worth.
maybe his
keeping around.
psychometry comes into play. Like I hope it's more fleshed out, but maybe he has some kind of like, he's about to hand her over to Thrawn, right? Or something bad is about to happen. And then they're speaking to each other through the Force, and he's like, "You seem different," and he senses something, dude. That's because they're really, really focusing on his psychometry, and Ahsoka has it now too. So
They both,
they're both imprinted by something. Like, what if Dave Filoni just takes it to a whole nother level, and it's like, something about you is different. You're not, because to Balin, she was kind of incompetent when they fought, and he was like, whatever, I'm just gonna throw you around
Hey,
against
bro,
the
you got
walls.
some new drip.
And what if he's like, I just hope they get to talk it out, and it's not just like I know what I'm supposed to do, and then he throws Thrawn down a ventilator shaft or something like Palpatine.
Oh, if Thrawn dies during this season, I'm gonna be so pissed. That would be so bad.
No, before he dies, he'll just be like, "It was so artistically done," and then
The
I would
Calicori, though,
appreciate this in the afterlife.
as I
Yeah.
As I fell to my death, I thought about the
Oh, my
Calicori
goodness.
once more.
Whatever that might hold, I
Whatever
will
that
remember.
is.
It's like Balin just throws him down an elevator shaft. And he's like, "Ah, yes, you threw me down this shaft at such a perfect angle that I can enjoy the symmetry of the elevator. Most perfect." And then he just dies.
This
Oh,
matte
this really
painting is
not.
beautiful. How do they do it?
I think it
Oh,
is
my
really
goodness.
interesting that, you know, Ahsoka, she has psychometry now, and, you know, Balin is still staying in good graces with that side, but he doesn't seem to care about it. He's pissed that what Anakin did, but that's not like his side, like, you know, side choosing moment. You know, it's just like this thing happened, and you know, you were. He hates anything that resembles the Jedi now, but
Hmm.
man, I really hope we're right about that. Where he's just like, you know, it's just like, man, all hope is lost. But then he kind of looks at Ahsoka and he's like, I don't. What's different? There's something different about you now, you know.
Man,
I'd have to
next
talk about
episode's
that
gonna
next episode. Yeah.
Hamster, you wanted to say something?
The Ahsoka show can elicit such strong emotions for me.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
I cried
Like,
like
this
a
is a
baby.
very
I think
emotional show, especially with Hayden Christensen coming back.
Oh yeah.
I'm
yeah.
so glad.
I
Like
still can't believe yesterday was real.
I was so. I don't want to be that Debbie Downer, you know, but I almost like I kind of like assumed Anakin was going to be in episode 4, you know, just to any degree. And there was so much reaction in our watch party. I was just like in shock, right? But that like Clone War, like there's something, you know, I love, don't get me wrong, I love the prequels. Love them. But there's this connection that I think I don't know if it's this group or just like kind of the part of the fandom that thinks the way we do. I don't know, but there's like a more community feeling with the Clone Wars because it's so much more. It's something we grew up with longer. You know, the Revenge of the Sith happened
Yeah.
one time, and then there was a novel, and then there was elaborations on it. But the Clone Wars is
games
something that
and
happened
It's
for 7 seasons, and we aged throughout those years. And so like
Right.
I was the most emotional just knowing like it wasn't just like that it happened though. It was just bringing back all of
But,
those memories, you know.
but yeah, like I can kind of understand where you're coming from because like Revenge of the Sith is like just a 2.5 hour movie that has a novelization to add a little bit of emphasis on everything that goes on during the time.
Right.
But you have Star Wars: The Clone Wars, which is like 7 seasons of insanity. You have all the comics. You have all
war
like
crime.
and all the war crimes. Yeah.
And I think that's the thing. It's like
You
people who try, or some people who try to, like, they don't understand that Clone Wars are Rebels, and then you tell them about it. You're gonna look at season 1 and be like, "This is annoying," you know. and
Yeah.
and it's like, but you know, because you didn't grow with it like we did. We grew,
Right.
yeah.
you know.
Like,
You gotta
season
Something we
you gotta
watch
be along
over and
for the
over.
ride.
Yeah, season 1, to be completely honest, is like kind of childish in a way. And whenever you're watching it again for the first time, you're just like, oh my god, enough with this childish bullshit. Give me the truck.
And then the second battle of Geonosis happens, and then you're like,
What's
oh
here?
yeah.
Show me people getting their heads cut off. Show me Anakin beating the shit out of that guy. Like Pongo the Lesser or whatever the fuck his name was. Show me
All I want to
show me
see
him force
is fight.
choking a motherfucker.
All I want to see is Anakin fight Dooku for the 7th time.
Exactly.
Dude, he
You
fights
see
Dooku so many
Anakin
times.
choke out Count Dooku with his robot hand and be like, "You like that, you little motherfucker?"
Take that.
Like he was about to choke him out. He's about
Trying to
fixing
kill
to
my
him.
wife,
Palpatine was
yeah.
like, "Oh shit, this happening right now?"
He was so happy to see it. He was like,
Yeah, he's like,
yes,
"Oh, good, good."
indulge your aggression.
Good.
But that's going to be all for today, folks. We're really glad that you guys could join us and hear us ramble around about freaking Anakin Skywalker for what has been a good hour change. But before we go, we want to leave you, we don't want to leave you empty-handed. We want to leave you, on our sponsor. Corvus,
yes.
I think you can handle this part.
Right, we're gonna hear from our sponsor today. You heard from Purgle Intergalactic last time, and we heard from Jawa Juice, but this time we're gonna hear from our other sponsor, the High Ground Dew, because I feel like it's very appropriate for this episode.
Too true.
Yes, Master Obi-Wan Kenobi himself.
That's
Subscribe to our OnlyFans.
No. Oh my god.
Subscribe to our OnlyFans. Buy our Jedi Daddy Beefcake T-shirts. Everything. Just buy everything.
And may
Yes.
the high ground be with
Every-
you.
May the
Always
high
has
ground
stole
be
your
with
souls.
May
May the high ground be with you. Always.
Hello there. Have you had a busy day? Do you wish you could just rest easy? Have you been dealing with a Padawan that doesn't listen and always complains? Master, it's not fair. Do you feel sometimes like you're boiling away in the bowels of Mustafar when you could be like me in the clouds? Come and join us on the high ground with the all-new High Ground Dew. Coming soon to vendors and cantinas near you.
Also, we need May the High Ground be with you T-shirts.